Hi, it's Kevin May in the PhocusWire studio. Joined again a year on from when you were last on one of our pundit shows.
Yes.
Richard Harris, CEO of Intent, formerly Intent Media.
Formerly Intent Media.
So you've changed the name since you were last
We
here.
have.
Okay. Thanks for coming in. So we'll start off, Richard, with what are you sensing are some kind of broad trends around advertising and the way the brands in this room and elsewhere in the kind of auditorium are thinking about advertising and stuff like that? Just a broad view first of all, we'll see where we go.
I mean, I think the big news continues to be Google, right? And if you look at the earnings reports of the big guys in the last couple of weeks, a bunch of the big players got crushed. And the sort of common thread in the narrative was Google. And
it's almost like they'd coordinated the message for I know they wouldn't, but it started off with, I think, Tripp saying, Steve said, and then Mark said, and then eDreams OTJO in Spain said yesterday or the day before as well.
Yeah. And I have no idea whether they coordinated, and I know there's some regulatory complaints that are happening, especially in Europe. But I think what it's saying, or the underlying theme, is that Google's verticalization in the travel world is just progressing, right? And it's going deeper and deeper, getting closer and closer to the transaction. Google's own search products are taking up more and more of the above the fold screen real estate. And it's a good product. Users like it, and it's getting increasingly comprehensive, and the pricing, for everything is getting increasingly accurate, and it's very hard to compete with.
But they've known this has been happening for. Because we've watched it.
It's a slow motion.
It's been like a jigsaw, isn't it?
Well, it's like a snake eating a frog. Right. You take those videos, and the snake might take like 4 hours to devour its prey, but the thing is still alive, looking around. And now, I don't think Google wants these guys dead. They're a significant source of revenue. But I think what if I had to guess what sort of Google is thinking is that there are suppliers, there are people who manufacture travel products, and then there's the user interface through which people access the information to make decisions. And everything else is sort of economic garbage. It is sort of arbitrageurs and intermediaries and a whole system of suboptimal experiences and pricing that in a perfect world does not need to exist.
Right.
And I think that is a sort of fundamentalist view of economics and user experience, and Google's just going after it, damn the consequences for the industries in which it's operating. And it's kind of hard to argue with.
Yeah. So, I mean, it leads quite nicely to the next question, which is, they must be desperately looking for other channels for customer acquisition now, right?
For sure.
But the fact that, let's talk about the big two, they spend a combined $11 billion a year in 2018. Finding another channel must be really hard for them.
It is. I mean,
and if they do, the other channel is going to be thinking this is great because there's money kicking about, but there isn't that other channel on that kind of scale yet. Right?
Yeah. Well, here's what's interesting. So there's a few interesting things that we observe at Intent. So, one, there's the second search engine, right? There's Bing, and they're sort of slowly verticalizing, but they just don't have the impact that Google does. So that's one. Two is Facebook, right? Facebook is sort of the number 2 repository of ad inventory globally, Facebook and its properties. But there's very little inherent intent inside of Facebook, meaning people are not there with explicitly commercial mindsets. And so Facebook needs to bring intent, bring sort of an understanding of commercial objectives of its users into the platform from external sources. And they're doing that in a sort of walled garden way. And all of the moves around privacy means that it's harder and harder to get individual data from one platform to another, so they sort of close ranks. But it's a fundamental disadvantage that Facebook has versus Google, which is real-time intent is not present.
Just on that, Richard, I mean, it's a phrase I've heard a couple of times this week, and that's we are now in a post-Facebook world because of people's irritation with what's been happening at Facebook.
Yeah.
Do you agree with that? I mean, the numbers haven't been disclosed yet for us to say, okay, they're shedding users or anything like that. Right. But if the sense in the wider market, not people in here, is that, okay, I'm going to stop using it now.
Yeah.
That's going to become a problem for them and back again for the brands that are looking for another channel.
Yeah, agreed. So I would say that like the people who are sort of exiting Facebook right now, it's a pretty small sliver of, well-educated, relatively elite, politically minded people. Is that going to progress and be a widespread trend? I don't know. But like in my social, like among tech people in New York City, like no one's doing anything on Facebook. But you have to remember, Facebook also owns WhatsApp, which is growing in popularity. They own Instagram. So they have these other avenues. WhatsApp today doesn't have ads in it. Instagram is chock full of ads. So they will have other avenues, but I think, it could be something that, whereas social has been sort of this monolithic entity in Facebook, it could start fragmenting.
Okay. So if it's not Facebook, and they're irritated by Google, and Instagram is just pretty pictures and influencers, what other kind of channel could emerge, do you think, to help these folk out?
Yeah, I mean, and this is not just self-serving, but I do think that thinking about commerce properties, right, digital commerce properties, themselves as advertising channels, right, meaning they are sources of advertising inventory, is something we've been working on for years. It was core to our first product, meaning that the other place besides search engines that have access to real-time understanding of commercial intent, as articulated by the users, is commerce sites themselves, right? You show up at Expedia or Amazon, and in the same way that you would type in cheap New York hotels in Google or Samsung TVs in Google to start a shopping project, you do that in a commerce environment as well. You do it in Amazon, you do it in hotels.com, Expedia, whatever. Here's what's interesting. Amazon has slowly been breaking out the revenues that they garner from advertising. And that number is going to be about $12 billion this year. And they're actually the number 3 source. So it used to be Google, Facebook, Bing. It's now Google, Facebook, Amazon in terms of ad revenue, ad inventory. And that's something very, very new. And we see this, we've seen it in travel for a while, but we're seeing this in retail as well, where there's just this stampede towards diversifying digital revenue streams at online retailers to comprise both transactions and media revenue.
Yeah.
And so this becomes a channel for retailers to advertise on other retailers, or for manufacturers to advertise inside of retailers. And I think that's going to grow substantially because it's not a channel that's dependent on Google or on Facebook. Now, is Amazon going to be a friendlier place for retailers to, develop a long-term ad strategy? I'd be a little wary.
Why? Why would you be wary?
Well, Amazon is a behemoth. They're like Google in some ways. They don't really care what their impacts on an entire industrial sector are. They just want to deliver super fast, cheap experiences.
But they didn't care about bookshops, for example, if you go right back, did they? So
they did care about bookshops?
They didn't care.
Didn't? No, not at all, right? That ended the bookshop industry. And so now bookstores are like people who sell vinyl records. They're these niche, I still love bookstores, but that category sort of disappeared. And in retail, non-travel retail, that's happening as well. Like a bunch of verticals, product verticals are just collapsing into Amazon. And because it's a more open marketplace now, their comprehensiveness is just unmatched and their logistics is amazing.
Yeah.
So why should I worry if I'm a manufacturer and I have this new channel, right? If I'm Sony and I have this new channel I can advertise on Amazon, I think when that plays out long term, Amazon's going to take their share of transaction economics and their share of media budgets. And the interesting thing is they can't really put Sony out of business or Samsung out of business because someone needs to make stuff for them to sell, which is different from Google not caring if Expedia or TripAdvisor disappears.
Yeah. Minus the $6 billion that they spend with them each
Yes,
year.
exactly.
They might be bothered about that little bit.
I think they are fairly confident. I don't. Someone inside of Google is doing the math and saying, you know what, if these intermediaries, this economic waste that exists in the marketplace, if they disappear, can we replace that with supplier direct ad money? And they've got to be betting that either they can, or that just the efficiency that Google brings to the market is going to create economic value.
A wonderfully delicate balance that they're having to tread with, isn't it?
Yeah.
Don't piss off the hand that feeds you.
Yeah.
But do you think they're just going to carry on treading that kind of fine line?
Google?
Or do you think it is eventually going to go the way that you just referenced, which is more and more supplier direct and facilitated booking?
I mean, that's the $20 billion question, right? Yeah. Which is, at some point, are they going to say, okay, enough, we need to let these people survive? Or is the conversation inside of Google, we need to figure out how to maintain the sort of livelihood of these people who spend so much money? Or is it going to be a sort of UX, user experience first, and we don't give a damn? We're going to create the best way for users to make decisions and find information, and if that leads to some body count along the way, so be it. That's efficiency.
Right. Richard Harris from Intent, it was nice talking to you. Thank you very much.
It was great to talk to you too.